My name is Dave Mercer, and I'm 63 years old. For most of my life, I was the quiet one, the youngest of three, the fixer, the one who stayed behind when everyone else chased boardrooms and stock markets. While my sons built tech empires and polished their last names into brands, I spent decades managing rental buildings that still smelled like oil paint and broken promises. I always thought that made me humble. They thought it made me weak. Maybe they were right, until the day my wife died, and I realized my own blood had cut me out of everything my family built. That was the day I stopped being the good father. And 2 nights later, a stranger handed me an envelope that made me question whether any of it, the money, the love, the legacy, had ever been real. Wexler and Dune LLP smelled like money, not the fresh kind, not ink and cash. It smelled like dusted wealth, old leather, sharp cologne, and quiet betrayal. There was marble under my shoes and glass above my head, and the silence in that conference room was more brutal than any scream. I walked in last. My sons were already seated. Aiden, sharp suit, no tie, calculating eyes. Lucas, younger, louder, already scrolling his phone. Both were born with sharp tongues and short memories. Neither of them looked at me. "The reading will begin now," said the attorney. Gray suit, blue tie, voice cold like an operating table. I stood by the wall, like a goddamn shadow. Victor Mercer's estate, estimated at $30 million, divided. Condos in Tribeca, commercial buildings in Brooklyn, the development project in Hoboken, offshore liquid assets. To Aiden Mercer, he didn't smile, but his fingers flexed around the chair's leather. To Lucas Mercer, Lucas tapped his screen and muttered, "Knew it." Silence. I waited. My breath hitched. The attorney paused. His eyes didn't quite meet mine. To David Mercer, I stepped forward. He slid a single envelope across the table. I didn't move. Lucas chuckled. "Hope it's not coupons." Aiden didn't even look at me. "He probably left you something personal, Dad, like a watch." The envelope was old, cream-colored, thick paper, no label, no seal. I picked it up. It was heavy. It was silent. It was wrong. Something shifted in my chest. I stepped back. The room felt too still, like a paused movie before the scream. The attorney shut the file, closed his laptop. "That concludes the reading. Please see our office assistant for documents related to your distributions." Distributions. That was the word. Like feeding dogs. No handshake, no eye contact. Aiden stood, buttoned his jacket. Lucas gave me a half salute. "Good luck with the heirloom." They walked out like winners. I didn't follow. I sat. For 1 minute. Then I stood. Pocketed the envelope. I passed the assistant desk. Nobody stopped me. Nobody asked if I needed a ride. Outside, Manhattan moved like it always does, fast and indifferent. A drop of rain hit the envelope. I covered it with my coat. Something twitched in my peripheral. Across the street, a black SUV. Windows tinted. Engine on. Just sitting there. I turned left. The SUV didn't move, but I felt it watching. At the corner, I stopped under the overhang of a closed deli, pulled out the envelope. My fingers were shaking. I didn't open it. I watched the SUV. Nothing. Then a honk behind me. I turned. The SUV was gone. I didn't breathe for 4 full seconds. When I finally opened the envelope that night, sitting at my kitchen table, I expected a watch, a letter, maybe a note telling me Victor loved me in his own way. Inside was a business card, handwritten on the back, "Come to 341 Kane Street. Midnight. Come alone." There was no name, just a faint scent of smoke on the card. That envelope wasn't the insult, it was the warning. Midnight hit like a warning bell, the kind of hour where promises rot and shadows start talking back. I stood across from 341 Kane Street, abandoned print shop. The windows were boarded shut with spray paint streaks over rotting wood. The wind off the East River cut sharp across my face. My coat wasn't thick enough. My breath came fast. White clouds in the dark. Concrete. Rust. The sound of a rat darting across an alley. The card in my pocket itched like poison. Come alone. A side door creaked. Light flickered once, then died. Someone was inside. I walked in. The air changed instantly. Burnt paper. Diesel. Something metallic underneath. Floorboards groaned with every step. Past the old conveyor rollers, past a half-torn calendar from 2006. A voice hit me. Flat, low, close. Dave Mercer. I froze. He stepped from the shadows behind a row of gutted printers. Tall, hooded, black jacket. His voice had that kind of calm that comes right before someone pulls a trigger. You came. I nodded once, swallowed. You called me. He didn't confirm, just held out a thick manila envelope, rubber-banded, slightly warped like something had been stuffed in it last minute. Take this. You have 2 hours before they realize it's missing. I stepped closer. And who are... He cut me off. Names don't matter right now. Truth does. You have no idea what they've done to you, Dave, or what they're planning next. What do you mean? Bang! A gunshot ripped the air. Wood splintered next to my head. I hit the ground. Second shot, closer. He dragged me behind an old filing cabinet. His hand gripped my collar, yanked me down. You were followed. I wasn't. You were. He peeked out. Another shot rang. Glass shattered. Metal ricochet. I felt it. The hum in the floor. Death close. He shoved the envelope into my coat. Go. Back exit. Don't stop for anything. Who the hell is shooting? He didn't answer, but I saw his hand, scarred, burned across the knuckles. Military. Or something worse. I ran. Back hallway. Red bulb swinging. Alarm strobe still working. No sound. Just the flash. Door ahead. Yellow push bar. Rusted. I hit it with my shoulder. Streetlight exploded into view. I kept running. 3 blocks. Then 4. Heart pounding like boots on metal. I didn't stop until I saw the train yard. Empty. Dark. Safe. For now. The envelope was still there. Sweat soaked through my collar. My hands shook. I opened it. Inside. Documents. Bank transfers. Swiss accounts. Pages of estate records. Scans of signatures. And one photo. Grainy, blurry, but real. My sons, Aiden and Lucas, sitting in a private office with the estate lawyer. 1 week before Victor died. Same table, same chair, same goddamn pen. Timing isn't proof, I muttered, but my stomach said otherwise. They'd met without me, without permission, and if what was in here was real. They'd buried me before the funeral. They used my grief as cover, my silence as consent. Family isn't always blood, sometimes it's motive. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. One line. Stop reading, or your next funeral is yours. No sound, but I could feel it. Eyes on me. Somewhere. Right now. Someone didn't just steal my inheritance. They killed to cover it. The envelope sat on the table like a loaded gun. I didn't sleep. I just sat there, watching the documents like they might change on their own. As if staring long enough would make it untrue. 3 million in one account, 5 in another, Swiss. Cayman, untouched for months, all tied to shell companies I'd never heard of, but names I recognized were listed under authorized access. Aiden Mercer, Lucas Mercer, my sons. My name was nowhere. My mouth went dry. A man doesn't cry at 63, but he does learn to hold silence until it strangles him. I called the estate attorney. Voicemail. Called again. Straight to dead tone. I dressed. Dark clothes. No jacket. Cold didn't matter. By 7:42 a.m., I was standing in front of Victor's old law office. Locked. Lights off. I knew the place. I'd helped paint it when he bought the building. My father believed in legacy. He just forgot to leave me in it. The maintenance door was still accessible. I still knew the damn keypad. 2023. The year he was supposed to retire. The hallway inside smelled like dust and scorched coffee. Framed photographs lined the walls. Victor with state reps. with CEOs, with both sons. I wasn't in a single one. The file room door was slightly ajar. A breath caught in my throat. I pushed it open. Empty. Almost. 2 folders on the floor, scattered like someone left in a rush. One was marked Mercer Revision Jan. That was before Victor died. Inside, red line edits, notes in Victor's handwriting, crossed out clauses, one bold sentence. If any coercion is suspected, estate to revert to alternate trust. See Dave Mercer. There it was. Proof. Until it wasn't. A line of text had been physically cut out of the page. Razor-sharp tear. Someone removed an entire clause. I ran my hand over the missing gap. I wasn't imagining this. A noise behind me. I turned. No one. But the air changed, like heat passing too close. I stepped into the hallway. Lights still off. Another noise. Metal clicking. Elevator, no time. I slid the file into my coat and left. Cut to next scene. By noon, I was standing outside Aiden's office. Downtown, 34th floor. Gold plaque. His assistant smiled too much. Her eyes didn't. He's in a meeting, she said. Can I tell him? He'll want to see me. She didn't move. I'm his father. That worked. 5 minutes later, I was in. Aiden stood behind his desk, sleeves rolled up as if he were about to operate on a company or bury a body. Dad, calm, too calm. You stole everything. He didn't blink. I don't know what you're talking about. The account numbers, the revised will, the cut clause. He tilted his head. You should be resting. This has been hard. Hard. Victor trusted me, not you, I said. Victor trusted the system. We just followed it. He stepped closer. Then he said it. There was never a clause about you. There was never a fallback plan. You were a bystander, Dad. You still are. That broke something. I walked out before I hit him, back into the elevator, down 34 floors, each ding like a nail. Distraction. Reveal. Phone buzzed. Unknown number. Screenshot. My apartment. Just now. Camera angle from the corner bookshelf. I never installed cameras. Text followed. You have 24 hours to disappear. I didn't go home. Instead, I went to the only place no one would expect me. The public library on Fulton. Dead Wi-Fi zone. No digital trail. Cold. Quiet. I opened the file again and found something new. Buried in the folder, wedged behind the back flap, was a USB drive. Black. No label. I plugged it into a public computer. Password protected. 2 tries allowed. I tried Mercer 2023. Access denied. Second try, I typed Victor Dave Truth. Access granted. A folder opened. Videos, PDFs, audio files. One labeled Confession of MP4. I clicked it. Victor appeared on screen. Same brown cardigan, same tired eyes. Recorded weeks before his death. My sons. They made me sign things I didn't understand. They threatened Dave's name. I tried to change it back. If you're watching this. I failed, but you can't. I hit pause. My hands were shaking. That was when I heard it. Squeaking chair behind me. I turned fast. Someone stood in the shadows by the nonfiction aisle. Hooded. Watching. Before I could scream, he said the words that shattered everything. Dave, they're planning to erase you next. He stepped out of the shadows like he'd been carved from them. The library's motion light flickered once. Off, on, off again. Just long enough for me to see the jawline I hadn't seen in years. Sharper now. Harder. A ghost wearing a hoodie. Nico. My voice cracked. He pulled the hood back. Same eyes. Same scar along his temple. Same fury he carried the night my wife, his sister, was lowered into the ground. You shouldn't be here, he said. But you came anyway. That's something. My heart hammered. You're supposed to be in Florida, or Europe, or dead. That's what they wanted you to think. He stepped closer. No sound. Too light on his feet. You think you're the only Mercer they tried to erase. The room temperature dropped. Or maybe it was me. He nodded to the USB still plugged into the computer. You found the video. Victor said, he said they threatened. Nico's jaw tightened. They didn't threaten him, Dave. They owned him. They cornered him, forced his hand. And when he tried to fix his mistake, he snapped his fingers. Gone. Cutscene. A cart rolled somewhere behind the stacks, just a rattle, but my nerves split open. Nico turned his head. We need to move. Where? Anywhere not full of cameras and record logs. He jerked his chin toward the exit. And we need to burn that drive. I pulled it from the port. The screen logged itself out. We exited into cold afternoon light. Clouds low, traffic heavy. People walking too fast, watching too much. My breath stung. At the corner, Nico grabbed my arm. Listen carefully. Your sons are not the architects. They're the puppets. Then who? You'll see. He scanned the street. Follow. We kept to narrow blocks, weaving through alleys and construction paths like we were dodging snipers. Nico walked like someone who'd spent years running from something heavier than police. A gust of wind caught the edge of his jacket. Underneath, holster. Not police issue. Something leaner, American-made. Nico, I said softly, what did you get involved in? He didn't answer, because a black van screeched around the corner. Tires screamed. Door slid open. Down. Nico shoved me hard. Gunfire tore through the air. Shards of brick sprayed like gravel. I tasted metal. Burn. Fear. Nico rolled behind a parked sedan and fired 2 shots, not to hit, but to scatter them. Run. Cutscene. We sprinted across the street, horns blaring. A taxi grazed my hip. Nico yanked me behind a dumpster as bullets pinged off the metal like rain. Why are they shooting at us? I gasped. Because you're alive. It wasn't comforting. We ducked into the subway entrance, flying down the stairs. Nico tossed a metal rod across the turnstile, jamming it behind us. Not enough to stop pursuit, but enough to slow it. Trains roared. Concrete trembled. The tunnel smelled like electricity and rust. Platform 3, he said. Quick. Where are we going? Somewhere safe. You haven't given me one safe place yet. He stopped, really stopped, looked at me. A safe place is anywhere they don't expect you to survive. That sank into me like a hook. We boarded the train at the last second. The doors closed. A dark figure reached for the handle but missed. The train lurched forward, pulling us away. My knees nearly buckled. You okay? Nico asked. No. Good. Means you're thinking. We grabbed seats at the far end. Harsh, fluorescent lights flicked overhead. I kept my head down. People around us wore earbuds, headphones, blank faces. Just another day in New York. Nothing looked dangerous. Everything was. Nico leaned close. There's a place upstate, old Mercer property, abandoned for 10 years. Your father left something there, something they never found, something they're still looking for. What is it? A will, the original one, the one naming you the sole executor of everything. My stomach dropped. And why didn't anyone take it before? Because Victor hid it in the one place your sons were too arrogant to search, a place that means nothing to them. Cutscene. Train slowed. We didn't move. You need to understand something, Nico said. Victor didn't protect you because he pitied you. He protected you because you were the only one who didn't want anything from him. I exhaled hard. I never believed people only love you when you're useful. He shrugged. People love power. They tolerate people. A stranger 2 seats down looked at us for a second too long. My breath tightened. Nico. I whispered. He followed my stare. The stranger looked away, or pretended to. You think he's with them? I asked. Nico's hand drifted toward his jacket. Always assume yes. The train hissed to a stop. Doors opened. Nico stood. We get off here. I followed, boots hitting concrete. As we pushed into the crowd, I felt it again. Eyes on my back, watching, measuring. Nico led us to the street. A storm was building, sky bruised and heavy. Wind had teeth. From this point on, Nico said, take nothing for granted. Not a door, not a neighbor, not a phone call. I didn't ask for any of this. He smirked. Life doesn't care what we ask for. It only cares what we'll fight for. The streetlight flickered. He stopped walking. And then he said the line that burned its way into me. They took your house. They took your inheritance. Now they're coming for your name. My pulse hammered. Dave, he whispered, they want to wipe you off the record. A truck roared past us, drowning his final words. They took your house. Let's see how they handle a war. Fog hung low over the drive as we pulled onto Mercer Lane, an old gravel road leading to the family estate. Trees arched overhead, like silent guards. The world was soundless, cold, expectant. Nico killed the engine. Headlights cut weak circles in the mist. Stay sharp, he whispered. We moved on foot, gun tucked beneath his jacket. My coat barely kept out the chill. The mansion rose silently, dark, empty, broken windows like dead eyes. The paint peeled. The door sagged. We slipped inside through a side window. The stale air tasted of mildew and old regrets. Rooms stretched empty, echoed footsteps. I pressed the flashlight against the wall. Boards creaked. A chandelier swayed slightly overhead, its glass crystals clinking like distant warning bells. Nico led me down a hall, carpet threadbare, walls peeling. Every footstep sounded loud. He reached a door marked Archive, Vault. He nodded. I took the crowbar. We pried open the door together. Inside, filing cabinets, old safe mounted in wall, dust thick like ash. Nico picked the lock with tools from his jacket. 10 seconds. Click. We stared at the open safe. Inside, a leather-bound book. Heavy. Embossed with the Mercer crest. My fingers brushed the spine. Proof. I breathed. Suddenly, headlights. Flash bleached through the windows. Footsteps thundered outside. The front door slammed. Wood splintered. I dropped the book. Nico shoved me behind a cabinet. Shouts in the hallway. Boots. Voices low and clipped. Search every room. No one leaves. Sweep fast. Black boots shuffled past the door. Guns raised. A floodlight from outside turned on. Light slammed through windows. Shadows snapped sharp. Nico hissed, "We move, now!" He grabbed the book, shoved it in his bag, hand on the small gun at his side. We backed out, crouched low, toward the back. Gunfire erupted behind us. Splinters of wood flew. Bullets kissed the floor. One struck the cabinet's edge. Metal screamed. Nico shoved me through a broken bedroom window. Glass shattered. We tumbled into the overgrown garden. Cold blades of grass cut against bare skin. I heard the voices, heard them coming, boots crunching, flashlights dancing through fog. Nico pulled me behind a crumbling stone wall. I opened the book. Pages brittle. Old ink faded. The first page, Victor's handwriting. Dave Mercer, sole heir. If forced, all assets transfer to him. My breath rattled. A click behind me. Gun barrel. I froze. A silhouette stood in the fog, pistol raised. I looked up and saw her, dressed in a dark coat, high heels pressed into mud. The profile, narrow chin, cold eyes. Rachel Mercer, my daughter-in-law. The air went thin. "You should have stayed quiet," she said, voice soft, mocking. Nico cursed. I lunged forward. The book slipped from my hand. Rachel fired. Metal cracked the night. I hit the mud. Pain seared in my shoulder. Nico sprang, tackled her. Gun slid across grass. She punched his face, knees, teeth, then freed herself and bolted into the trees. Nico cursed again, blood in his mouth, hand bleeding. I groaned, tried to sit up. Rain started, fine drops at first, then heavier, as if sky was loosening its grief. "Rachel," I spat. "Why?" He coughed. "Because control isn't inherited, it's taken." Cut scene. Sirens. Distant at first, wailing across fog, flashing red and blue through trees. Police cars crashing down the lane. Rachel stumbled into view, hands up. She glared at me, then at Nico. "Nice try, Dad." She turned to flashlight beams. "I'm the one in charge now." Handcuffs clicked, radio static, men shouting. Nico collapsed forward, breathing heavy. I crawled to him. "Remember," he rasped, "truth isn't given, it's exposed." He closed his eyes. I clutched the leather book, soaked, stained. The rain ran down its cover like tears. Officers cuffed me too, but their expressions held uncertainty. I held the book up as proof. They escorted us out. Rain soaked through clothes. Lights overhead blinded me. I looked at Rachel. She glared back. Fury, regret, power. She had the empire once. Now the evidence was mine. Later, in a cold holding cell, I thought, in this life, betrayal wears a smile, and sometimes the knife is held by someone you called family. I closed my eyes. Rain hammered the pavement outside like fate knocking at the door. I swore, under my breath, as thunder rolled, family doesn't guarantee loyalty. And I finally understood the horror of that sentence. It was never about money. She wants the family name without the family. Rain hammered the courthouse windows as I stood under the harsh hallway lights. The leather binding of the will felt like armor in my hands. Inside the courtroom, the air pulsed. Cameras, flashbulbs, reporter whispers. My son sat in the front row. Aiden with cold eyes, Lucas silent, rigid. Rachel sat beside them, perfect smile, but her eyes flickered, something she hadn't practiced. The judge cleared the room. "Proceed." I stood up. My voice came out quiet at first, then louder. "This document is the original last will and testament of Victor Mercer." I laid it on the table. The Mercer crest glinted under the lights. Any prior amendments are null and void because they were forged. A murmur rippled. I glanced at my sons. Their faces drained. Rachel snapped. "How dare you?" I didn't wait. I pressed play on the tablet connected to the court system. The video grabbed everyone's attention. Victor's worn face, his trembling hand signing under pressure, the dark-suited men whispering around him. Nico's voice echoed in my memory. "Truth isn't given, it's exposed." Rachel's breath caught. Her composure cracked. I quoted a line I had told myself when this started. "Family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's motive." Judge's gavel banged. The court clerk read the verdict. "The original will stands. All assets transfer to me." Silence pressed like concrete. Polaroid flashes burst. My son stood, shoulders slumped, Rachel's eyes wide, hollow. I didn't gloat. I didn't raise my voice. Outside, rain had stopped. The city lights in Manhattan looked like scattered promises. But I felt empty. Not because I won. Because I had lost more than I expected. A week later, I walked into Mercer Corp's main office suite. The building felt like a tomb of greed. Now it was mine. I closed the door of the boardroom. No audience, no applause, just quiet. I flipped the leather will open. I traced the words. Sole heir, Dave Mercer. A name. My name. I sent a letter to every employee, construction workers, staff, housekeepers, an apology, a promise, back pay, fair treatment, dignity. Then I gave a speech. Money without mercy is just noise. It felt heavy. True, they listened, faces worn but hopeful. I didn't claim the luxury condos, didn't buy a car. I kept an apartment downtown, small, modest, a quiet room to remember the cost. At night, I stood on the balcony. Wind tugged at my coat. The skyline glowed. I thought of Victor, thought of Nico, thought of the silence, the betrayal, the fires, and the chase. I whispered into the darkness. Justice is what we build after the lies burn down. The phone rang. Unknown number. I didn't answer. I deleted the voicemail because I know now. Surviving isn't living. Living is when you break the cycle. 1 month later, I walked past the construction site that had been abandoned under my son's greed. Walls half built. Rebar. Rusting. Boards rotten. Ghost of a project. I unlocked the gate. Climbed in. Workers watched me, curious, wary. I nodded. I stood at the center, rain clouds gathering again. I said, "We're rebuilding, not for profit, for people." They cheered, not for me, for themselves, for hope. And I realized revenge fades, but redemption echoes. I closed my eyes, felt the wind, felt the weight of a name reclaimed. They took my fortune, but I took their power. And this time, I'm not building an empire. I'm building justice.